Welcome back to this week's episode of Between the Seasons. I'm so sorry that we left you on a cliffhanger last week, but let's go ahead and jump right back into the conversation where I just told Pinaki and Chris that I was OP in our previous Reddit story about my best friend going to my boss and trying to steal my job. Let's dive back in.
You are the
Kidding.
OP? Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
What a surprise.
What a twist. That is
what
a
do
great
you-
follow-up.
So holy crap. So wait a minute. We have a very interesting opportunity here now. Because I'm always wondering what if like an OP of one of these like Reddit reads ever like listens to this stuff, what would they think? So here we are. You are the OP.
Yeah.
Give us feedback real quick.
Yeah.
But just before you jump into it, Bree, I just want
Yeah.
to say I thank my lucky stars, Pinaki, that you and I didn't talk dramatic smack about the OP.
Yeah.
Well, so this was, let me think. We were probably like 22, 21. Like we were fresh out of college. And Chris, I know you said like, well, maybe in Amy's head, you guys were more coworkers than best friends. That wasn't the case. We were really close friends, and I would have considered us friends more than coworkers. Like whenever she would have like bad days, she would just like come over and spend the night like at 10 p.m. Like she'd come over and spend the night. Like she would meet me after therapy and we'd go get ice cream together and like debrief. Like we spent all of our time together. We would go to hockey games together. My partner at the time, he worked evenings and I worked a typical 9 to 5. So her and I hung out in the evenings. And like I said in the post, she also compared us, on a professional level a lot and on a personal level a lot. Like when I started dating again after I became single and she was dating, like she would compare my success versus hers. And she made me feel really guilty a lot about being good at things because it was as if if I was good at things, she couldn't be good at things.
Yeah. So your achievements became her depression.
Yes.
In a way. And then so like there's a dynamic. So she's drawing you down throughout the whole thing.
And I do go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was just going to say, Bree, I had this conversation with my daughter a few weeks ago. We were talking about one of her friends, and we had this really interesting conversation about just friendships in general or relationships, like especially personal relationships where you love someone or you really like someone or enjoy someone because you have a lot in common, you have a lot of fun together, or you're attracted to them. And one of the things that we started talking about was this idea of recognizing and understanding which of your relationships give you energy and which of your relationships sap energy. And it's a very subtle thing. And the sense that I get from, quote unquote, Amy is that you enjoyed spending time with her. You had a lot in common and you enjoyed each other's company. But because of this constant comparison, just upmanship and whatnot, I'm sure for you, Bree, at times it was exhausting and sapped a lot of energy. And those are the hardest relationships to walk away from because you also get so much out of it. But you definitely, it is taxing for you personally in a way that you might not have recognized.
Yeah.
So what did you think when I was talking about confronting?
I'm not so when I was like fresh out of college, young 20-year-old, I definitely was not going to confront anyone about anything. Learning how to communicate was something that like I spent a lot of time in therapy on because like it wasn't something I grew up good at. And I knew that in my young 20s. And so actually like in tandem with like all of this stuff with going on, I was in therapy for like learning how to communicate. And I tried. But it got really bad in the friendship to where she was becoming really clingy, a little stalkerish-esque. It got to the point where her mental health depended on her being with me at all times. And so it was incredibly
It developed
draining.
like some kind of coded, like a dependency or anxious
Yeah.
what do you call it? There's a
Separation
word for it.
anxiety.
Yeah, like, yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
Whoa.
Anxious, separation anxiety and
And
whatnot.
so I actually did confront her and I told her,
Mhm.
"Hey, like it's a little too much. Like I'm feeling like, you're being a little clingy. Like
Mm,
this is." I told her like all of the things, and she doubled down, and it got
yeah,
worse.
yeah.
Oh.
So one interesting thing, because I understand this because like me in my like 20s is different than me in my like getting to. We're not going to talk about it, but um, I like it. I've learned over the years, and probably more recently, that even like confronting, there's a subtle way to do it because when you confront in a way that could slightly feel accusational, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
And a lot of my confronting has been now asking questions to understand over trying to explain how I'm feeling about this right now. Like, hey, Amy, have you ever had the feeling that like if I do good, like it makes you depressed or it makes you look bad? Do you think that? I
Mhm.
hope you don't. That's why I'm asking. So it's just more like I'm trying to reach out to learn about what's going on rather than confronting to unload what I feel right now to get your response, because doing that latter option would get a defensive response in a way. That's just on confronting, not
Yeah.
on the whole totality of the relationship. I think it's interesting.
So so this was really fun for me to share. But I did there was a point for me wanting to share this. And it is that like this interaction has embedded like such imposter syndrome in me. Because I think like because again, we were friends, like we met at work, but we were the best of friends. So to have my best friend take my insecurities that I shared with
Hmm.
her about like, yeah, I don't feel like sometimes like I have all the skills I should for this role, and like I feel like I'm a little behind sometimes, to take those to my boss and be like, "Hey, I'm more qualified for Bree's job than she is. She didn't even go to school for this, whereas I did. She knows she's not qualified for it. I think I should be." Like, how do you move beyond those
Yeah.
crummy
I think,
feelings?
Yeah.
the way I think about it, Bree, is like I don't think she was ever truly your friend the way you
Yeah.
thought, because I think you were very useful for her to make her feel better about herself. And obviously, she also used you to get ahead at the company. And so, and I don't, I would say as well, I think people like this. I think, Pinaki, you probably know people like this as well in your own life. But I think some people aren't even aware that
Hmm.
that's what they're
I was thinking
actually
the same
doing.
thing.
So I think Amy probably believed that you were her friend, but didn't recognize when she's using
Mhm.
those that are close to her for her own personal gain or to uplift herself. So this is a conversation like I feel like we could have for like we could go on forever on this because it's a
Hmm.
great conversation, but it really showcases the fact that in a professional setting, exactly like you said, Pinaki, why does it feel so wrong to be human at work? We're still at the end of the day until AI takes over all our jobs. Um, we're still humans doing roles, working with each other, managing the incredible complex relationships that come with it, the pride, the envy, the friendships, all these different things. And I think it's one of the most important parts of the work
Hmm.
experience, but it also leads to problematic
Mhm.
dynamics, just like what you talked
Yeah.
about, Bree.
Yeah, let me put it up by adding like a few points for every you, Bria, and everyone who might be feeling the same thing, especially in a creative role. You kind of think about these crummy emotions that you feel, like imposter syndrome, or like, you know, uh, I don't know, this fear of I don't know how this like design or thing that I'm thinking is going to come out. But I think in a creative profession, one of the things that we want to try to do is to be comfortable with that, because that is part of the creative process. To feel some of this crummy stuff is to help
Mhm.
you get to the really, really great stuff. Right. And so it can be fuel. And like I said, for her, she wasn't doing it to you, but more for her. And similarly, you weren't trying to make her look bad while doing really good work. you were
I was
doing
just
it
doing my
for
job.
you. You're yeah, exactly. You were doing what you were just doing, right? And so that kind of dynamic gets wild, especially when there's emotion at work, because you could do that. And I think emotion should be at work. I think
Mhm,
powerful things could come out of like friendships and things like that. But that emotion could really kind of create like a quick pain that could like sever a relationship really fast because of that emotion, right? Because I think of one of the lines that is sticking in my head from the famous anime Fist of the North Star is no one could love more ardently and passionately than a madman, right? So love makes us go a little crazy,
mhm,
and not think exactly straight. So, and at the same time, love can empower us to do really great things. So love has this kind of like positiveness to it and this negativeness thing to it. And if we could harness both sides of that really well, it could really turn into a superpower. So um,
Pinocchio, that's the
don't
most
beat yourself up.
romantic thing I've ever heard you say.
that was
I
beautiful.
felt like Celine Dion, like just pumping my. It's the
Right?
power of love.
I mean, Celine Dion, like think about it, right? Like how much like emotion goes into the work to create something like that that's going to create an emotional alteration for everyone listening, right?
Yeah.
There's a things come from deep pains or deep loves and deep joys and things like that. And if we could draw from that,
Mhm.
it could be
And
really
ultimately,
powerful.
I feel like that's what organizations should be seeking more than they currently do, which is not just seeking competence, but seeking competence that comes from a place of passion, right? Where
Hmm.
you honestly do love what you're doing. You love interacting with clients. You love having conversations about it. And I think especially for young people, it's hard to think in that way because you're just trying to make it and you
Hmm.
fake it until you make it. You're just trying to climb that ladder. You're trying to impress your manager. And sometimes, this happens probably to most of us. You just lose sight of, what gave you joy in the first place and what gets you higher up on, Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah. And last bit on the competition piece, I'm very careful of competition at work,
Love
especially
that.
with coworkers between each other.
Mhm.
Right. I think about it more like a football
Brilliant.
team where we're part of one team against another team or the world, rather than I'm pitting you two against each other to see who comes off on top and things like that. Which is, to be honest, sometimes difficult for some people who are used to a very competitive environment. However, I don't want people to compete against each other. I want people to collaborate with one another.
Especially
Leave it at
like
the.
people who grew up in homes where the parents would stoke, like, for example, sibling rivalry, for
Hmm.
example, which
Oh
without
yeah.
recognizing what that actually does, right?
Yeah.
They constantly being compared to someone else is like living in a little bit of a torture
Yeah.
in that
Yeah.
way.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
fun.
Well, yeah. So yes, let's alleviate that. Let's breathe that out because you're amazing at what you do. Your work rocks and everything like that. And somehow or another, this person, this Amy, might have just made you stronger.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would say so. I I'm really glad I shared this story with you guys today. That is why I kind of came in with no other plan because I knew this one would be a doozy. And I knew we would talk about it for a while. We're really bad at these 15-minute episodes. Um, but thank you guys for, sharing your insight and your advice because like when this happened to me, like I didn't feel like I had anywhere to go. I mean, she went to my manager to talk bad about me and like then my manager just told me and nothing happened after that. Like
Hmm.
and
Your
so
manager just told you. Oh Jesus.
yeah,
Sorry.
and I and I'm not from Pittsburgh. I don't have family in Pittsburgh. Like this was my only friend that I had in the
Hmm.
city.
Yeah.
And so like it was a really really hard time for me, but by the grace of COVID, our building closed and we got sent home with our computers and we went through a merger, got put in different departments and I never talked to her again. I just
Yeah.
ghosted.
Mm.
Because like at that point I felt scared and like it was getting
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
intense, but
It's
I
wild how. Oh, sorry.
go ahead. Oh, I know that Pinaki, we had a great annual review recently, and I mentioned that I doubt myself, and you were like, "What?"
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted to share this story,
Yeah.
is because like I truly feel like a lot of my self doubt stems from like this
Yeah.
whole like
That
toxic
experience.
Yeah.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think
You know what?
in that same review, I told you that, well, I do too.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know,
Bree,
because
I
it's
just want to,
human.
you're thinking us. I really thank you for sharing such a personal and intimate story and experience, and just being willing to be vulnerable, because I think a lot of us, would just bury that in the closet and just not let it come out. And I think um, I agree with Pinaki. I think these kinds of experiences, whether we understand it or not, do inform how we grow and how we
Hmm.
mature and how we can become stronger. So it's not a pleasant experience, of course, but I think it's just an important one, because you might approach future relationships with at least a little bit of not just opening wide open and understanding. And I just gotta just keep protective a little bit of myself as well.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
stopped making friends with coworkers.
I don't know about that, but but
Yeah.
yeah, but understanding
Yeah.
that there's still that dynamic at the end of the day, right?
That's what
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
But
yeah.
We learn from our things, and we kind of keep playing and testing with the
yeah.
waters, because
Yeah.
everyone is different, every situation is different,
Yeah.
whatnot. So this was a great episode. This was so wild. um
This was a gift, Bree. It was a
this
gift.
was so
I really enjoyed this.
yeah.
I am glad you guys did too. It might happen again in the future because I have a lot
Bree,
of stories.
yeah, what a wild twist to this one. So thank you, and I'll close out with saying thank you, Bree, for this wild quote unquote Reddit story, or quote unquote Breeze story. Chris, thank you for your insights, and everybody, thank you for tuning in to Between the Seasons, the miniseries from Why Does It Feel So Wrong to Be Human at Work. I thank you all for joining in. Join us again next week, and do that subscribe thing and like thing and all that good stuff that you all do. Let us know what you think. We'll see y'all next week.
Thanks, everybody.